You can look on Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest for the verdict. And in the case of the Ninja Professional versus the Vitamix 5200, the court of public opinion rules so strongly in favor of the Vitamix, it's almost no contest. Yet, when we look at the facts that there have been millions of Ninja Professionals sold over a relatively short period of time, there has to be a reason why. Maybe the Vitamix community is more vocal, or maybe the Ninja community is just more humble. There has to be an answer. I'm Lenny Gale with Life is No Yoke, and today we're going to discuss the complete case in the great blender debate between the Ninja Professional and the Vitamix 5200. And by the end of this video, you should be able to come to your own conclusion. Are you ready? So there are many arguments in the debate over Ninja versus Vitamix. Are they just as powerful? Do they make the smoothest smoothies? Are they really able to crush ice into snow? I don't want to be the one to tell you the answer. I want to let the blenders do the talking. And we're going to do that in a variety of head-to-head tests using a unique tool that I'm going to show you in a minute to ensure objectivity. But before we do, we're going to examine the ins and outs of both of these entry-level blenders. I want you to see and hear and feel both sides of the case. Now there's three things I want to clear up really quickly. First, today we're talking about the Ninja Professional blender. And since we're only talking about core performance and not about accessories, today's findings can apply to only one other model, and that's the Ninja Professional with personal cups. Second, the Vitamix 5200 is the model that this Ninja is based on and expressly compares itself to, and therefore no other Vitamix model is relevant for this case. And third, finally, I want to clear up, I do not work for Ninja and I do not work for Vitamix. I work for you. So consider supporting that work, all of which is advertisement free, by visiting my website, lifeisnoyoke.com, before you make your pick. Okay, now we can begin. We're gonna break this Ninja versus Vitamix thing into three sections. First, the design. How are these things made and what's the impact on you, the user? Second, we'll talk performance. How much of a difference is there, really? And third, we'll talk versatility. What can these two blenders do beyond smoothies and blended drinks? Okay, let's begin with the design. We'll talk materials, so what it's made of, what's on the inside, and what it means for the warranty. Then the blending process. What's it like to use these things? Finally, the cleaning process. What's it like to actually maintain these things? And so let's begin with the materials. First, the Ninja. The Ninja is 16 inches tall and weighs in at about 8 pounds and has a footprint that's 6 inches wide and 8 inches deep. It has a 1,000 watt motor, 3 speeds, and a pulse function. Around back, you can see a simple 2-prong power cord that's about 3 feet long when you extend it. And to quote my friend Henry PJ, this cord is something you don't see very often these days, except for maybe on an alarm clock. The container. The container holds 72 ounces and it has easy to read black measurements on the outside. It's made of BPA-free plastic and it's square with a rounded finish on the corners. And the best way to describe its feel is kind of like those old Nalgene container bottles, water bottles. Sort of a hardened plastic with a hollow sound to it. The handle is made of black plastic and made out of the same material as the lid, and we'll talk about that in a second. The bottom of the container has a plastic 6-winged gear that fits on a similar looking plastic gear connected to the blender base. The plastic square lid has a release button, a locking handle that you can see just flipped up, and a clear plastic pour spout that flips open like this. Inside there's a rubber strip around the edge and a small little groove that holds the blender base. There's a few moving parts on the lid. As you can see, these white buttons, they actually facilitate the locking mechanism, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But you can kind of get an idea of how it works when you hear this. The best way to describe the lid, if you imagine kind of like a children's toy that you assemble out of the box, and this is kind of one of those pieces. Now the Ninja Professional, by design, the blade is actually removable from the container. So you can see that there's actually no blade at the bottom. The blade assembly itself is held in place by a male-female plastic star-shaped connection. The blade is made of a hardened, molded plastic with 6 extremely sharp blades fitted in. Let's look at all those things on the Vitamix. This Vitamix, the 5200, is 20 inches tall and is just under 11 pounds. It's 7 inches wide, 9 inches deep, and has a 1500 watt motor with 10 variable speeds. Now, although there's no true pulse function, you can achieve the same thing by hitting the on and off switch. Around back, there's a 6-foot, 3-prong heavy-duty power cord, and this is something like that you would see on a surge protector. On the base of the motor is a rubber landing pad that surrounds the motors of the drive socket. The container can hold 64 ounces. It has engraved measurements on the outside, and it's made of BPA-free Eastman Triton copolyester material. And the best way to describe this is it's kind of like plexiglass. You know, the stuff that's lining hockey rinks. It's thick, but it feels strong, but it kind of has a little bit of a give to it. You can almost bend it when you squeeze it. And if you tap it, kind of sounds like plexiglass. The handle itself is made out of, is coated with a rubber. If you take a look at the bottom, you can see a couple of things. This large black metal piece, that's about 3/4 of an inch thick, is what holds the blade assembly to the container. Notice how there's no screws or fasteners here. Nothing to come loose. And the other thing is this hardened stainless steel 12-prong driver nut. And this is actually what goes into the stainless steel drive socket of the motor, right here. Together, they drive the blade. The lid has these rubber sort of wings that secure the lid to the top. And on the top, there's a lid plug that goes into the container. And you notice that it's actually round, that goes into a square hole. And there's a good reason for that, and we'll discuss that in a minute. Now, if we look inside of the Vitamix container, we can see the blade. It's 100% fixed to the bottom, so you cannot remove it. It's made of 100% stainless steel, hardened stainless steel, and the blades themselves are actually quite dull, even when you take it out of the box, brand new. All right, let's bring it all together. On one hand, I can understand the appeal of the Ninja Professional. It's got a little bit of a smaller footprint. It looks cool, and on the surface, seems to be able to perform just as well as the Vitamix. On the other hand, I'm really taken aback by the Ninja's design. There seems to be a lot of moving parts that are not built to last, and overall just a low quality feel to it. I mean, the blades will get dull, and then what? Can the big plastic blade assembly break off and leave little pieces of plastic into my drink? What happens when one of these little moving pieces breaks down? Do I have to replace the whole thing? It's hard to say. So what about the warranties? The Ninja Professional's warranty lasts 1 year and is very limited. Basically just covers manufacturer's defects and requires you to pay $20 for return shipping. And the warranty itself is not transferable. The Vitamix, however, is warranted for 7 years, and that covers normal wear and tear. They'll actually pay for shipping both ways, and it's transferable. So when you pass this thing down to a loved one, they're still covered. Here's another thing that really gets me. The Ninja Professional claims to be professional, yet top chefs choose Vitamix for their kitchens. And commercial quick serve restaurants like Jamba Juice, Starbucks, Smoothie King, they all have Vitamixes that are nearly identical to this one in all of their restaurants. So it just doesn't add up. One last thing. The Vitamix is made with a minimum of 70% United States of America sourced materials and currently 100% manufactured in the United States as well, while the Ninja is entirely sourced and manufactured in China. But maybe that's just unbeknownst to buyers. Anyways, there's clearly some big differences in the materials of the Ninja Professional versus the Vitamix 5200. Okay, first thing you want to do is take the blade assembly and put it into the container. Now you want to be very, very careful because the 6 blades are extremely sharp. You want to make sure you don't cut your finger or scratch the insides of the container. Then we'll put the container on the base, and it takes a little bit of practice because it needs to be at this exact 45-degree angle. Then you lock it in place like this, and you're ready to go. Next, you add the ingredients, and finally, you put the lid on by lining up these 2 arrows here and here on the corner. It has to be at this angle. Push it on, and we'll push the handle locking mechanism down until it locks in place. We'll plug it in, turn it on, and then you press whatever speed you want it to run. Now, if we decide that we want a little more ice or forget to add the banana, we power it down, press the release button, lift open the handle, pull the lid off, and add what we need. When it's running, the Ninja's actually quite loud. I clocked it at just under 100 decibels on average. Once the blend is complete, we can twist the lid to unlock it from the base and use the handy pour spout to pour our drink. So what's it like to actually blend with the Vitamix? First of all, the blade is fixed, so there's no need to actually handle that at all. And then we'll place the container on the rubber landing pad in any angle that's comfortable for you. Drop our ingredients in, place the rubber lid on top, making sure it's snug on the outside. We'll plug it in, turn it on, and turn it up to variable speed 10. Now when we run the Vitamix, we're going to create a vortex of flow. And that means the ingredients are pulled in from the outside and down into the blades. The vortex is how everything gets blended up evenly, and why we can actually take the lid plug off while it's running and drop in more ingredients. Big ingredients, ice, banana chunks, and because of that vortex, there's zero splatter whatsoever. Now, when we're processing things like nut butters or texture sensitive items, we have the tamper to help us drive ingredients into the blade and get to an end result that's with a little more finesse and efficiency. Now at variable speed 10, I measured the volume at an average of 97 decibels. When it's done, flip the power off, remove the lid, and pour. Now on one hand with the Ninja, I could see how all the locking pieces could bring a feeling of safety, the pour spout, a little bit of convenience, and the fewer variable speeds, maybe some simplicity. But on the other hand, the whole blending process with the Ninja Professional seems very clunky and rigid and complicated, especially compared to the Vitamix. But maybe that's something people like. Now the last element of the design that we'll talk about is the cleaning process. And this is important because if you're going to use it, you gotta clean it. With the Ninja, cleaning the outside is actually pretty easy. After that, it gets a little more tricky. The lid is dishwasher safe, so you can just throw it in the dishwasher. But if you want to keep all the moving parts intact, you'll want to wash it by hand. Now, the blade has to be cleaned manually, by hand. And you have to be extremely careful because the blades are very sharp, especially when they're brand new, and they're all over the place. The container itself, you can wash by hand, Or you can pop it in with the lid because it is dishwasher safe. So how do you wash this Vitamix? Well, you can take a rag and wipe off the face and the buttons like this. Now, this model is not dishwasher safe, but with a couple drops of soap and a little bit of hot water, turn it on and run it on variable speed 10, this Vitamix will clean itself. So I can see how the Ninja's container and lid being dishwasher safe is nice. But what I struggle with is the need to manually remove and clean the blade. How can this possibly be preferable? Especially considering how sharp and aggressive it is. But maybe people see the Ninja's blade as the key to its performance. Maybe the overwhelming amount of plastic and moving parts make the Ninja's blended drinks really great. There's only one way to find out. Let's take them both into the kitchen and have a look. Okay, let's talk blend quality. What do we really get when we make stuff with the Ninja Professional and the Vitamix 5200? To test, we're gonna make three things: a green smoothie, a berry smoothie, and a classic frozen margarita. First, the green smoothie. It's probably the first thing you're gonna make with your new blender. So spinach or kale, and then whole fruits and vegetables, and maybe some nuts or seeds, whatever you like. It's a great breakfast to start your day, a meal replacement when you're on the go, or even just a snack for you and your loved ones. Green smoothies are great a million different ways. For this green smoothie, we're gonna use the recipe book that came with the Ninja. Now, none of the recipes in here call for kale, a more dense, nutrient-rich green, but that's okay because spinach is pretty good too. It should be noted that none of the green smoothies in here call for harder ingredients like carrots or apples. So we're gonna stick to what it says it can do. All right, we got pineapple, kiwi, banana, spinach, and ice. All right, so we're gonna blend for 30 seconds and see what we get together. Once it catches, it's gonna kind of pull it down. Can you see what's going on here? Look how it's like clean from here up. And this is like all over the place, filthy. I want you to see what they look like straight out of the blender. The smoothie made in the Vitamix is much more vibrant and consistent. So they look different, but do they taste different? This is like, this one tastes like you're eating a salad, and this one tastes like you're eating candy. Try it, I'm serious.
You have to chew that one.
Now, for the sake of testing, let's put them through a sieve. About the same amount has passed through each of them, but the smoothie made in the Vitamix has passed through a little more fibrous material.
That's not at all evident.
So yeah, the Ninja worked. It blended the ingredients, but using the exact same ingredients, the Vitamix made something that looked and tasted like candy instead of salad. Next, let's make a berry smoothie. This is probably going to be the second type of smoothie you make in your new blender. This type of smoothie is unique because the ingredients have lots of tiny little seeds. And this is important because after they've been blended, the size of them makes a difference on color, flavor, and amount of extracted nutrients. We'll use water, yogurt, this kind is vegan, and half a cup of blueberries, strawberries, and raspberries, all frozen. We'll blend for 1 minute and have a look.
So the color is pretty similar, but I would not say that they're the same consistency.
There's definitely some texture to the one made in the Vitamix, but the smoothie made in the Ninja, you almost have to chew. Let me get you a close-up. This is from my point of view. You can see the Vitamix left a little bit of seeds behind, but the Ninja left a significant amount of unprocessed debris. I'll admit, we had to look pretty closely to see a difference in the quality of blends. But when it came to taste, the difference was significant. And this was the one that tasted like a Jamba Juice smoothie. The last thing we'll make to test blend quality is one of the big reasons we all want a blender in the first place, and that's to entertain. More specifically, to make frozen margaritas. Sure, margaritas on the rocks are fine, but something about serving restaurant quality frozen margaritas is just better. Making frozen margaritas is easy. It's tequila, triple sec, lime juice, and ice. Today I'm gonna add fresh fruit and use stevia instead of simple syrup because that's the way I like it. I'm hoping that the Ninja wins in this one because in its infomercial, it says that it can turn ice into snow. All right, we're gonna blend for a minute, see what we get. Looks amazing. It is the same shade, but just looking at it, you can tell that it's almost like that this one has fizz in it. There's so many little pieces of ice. So here's where it's really obvious. You take a spoonful, even from the bottom, you still have this kind of bubbly, I mean, you can literally see the chunks of ice. I mean, these are two completely different things. Yeah, I mean, is it worth sieving?
No. I don't think so. It's very clear.
Okay. This is more like a snow cone.
This tastes like what I get at a Mexican restaurant.
Here's the conclusion of the margarita test. This one tastes like something I would get at a restaurant. This one tastes more like a snow cone. And I don't claim to be the greatest host, but I wouldn't even serve this. As much as I dislike wasting food, I dislike wasting booze that much more. So I'm gonna take all this and put it in here and party. All right, versatility. What can these two blenders do beyond smoothies and blended drinks? One of the coolest things a Vitamix can do is make nut butters. So peanut butter, cashew butter, or my favorite, almond butter. And that's what we'll make for this test. Is this something the Ninja can handle? I know nut butters are an advanced thing to make in a blender, but here's why this is important. Nut butters are used for more than just spreads on sandwiches or dips for snacks. You can use them for baking, or sauces like Thai peanut, or even marinades when you're grilling. Nut butters really are a game changer. I'm gonna make a cinnamon sugar nut butter using raw almonds I roasted for 15 minutes and a little bit of oil. This is sunflower oil. I'm gonna use the tamper that came with the Vitamix to finesse the nuts into the blade and get myself a little bit of more efficiency. Ninja doesn't come with a tamper and claims it doesn't need one, so we're gonna let it do its thing. If you're new to making nut butters with your Vitamix, you're gonna hear a little bit of a chugging noise, and that's completely normal. With the lid secure, the tamper, even inserted all the way in, won't touch the blades. For creamy nut butter, we're gonna run for 60 seconds. If the goal was to create something that you could spread or dip into or use as the base of a sauce, it's pretty clear that the Ninja was not up to the task. You can take a closer look. This is creamy almond butter, a little darker than you might be used to because I roasted the almonds for a long time. But over here, this isn't even really chunky almond butter. It's more like a almond meal. All right. Spread test, pass. Dip test, pass. This, not so much. That is so good. That is really good.
On an apple because it's sweet.
It's all over my face, but it's so freaking good. I love making frozen desserts in my Vitamix, especially this vegan ice cream. It's super simple and tastes just like the real thing. Great healthy dessert option for ice cream lovers looking to avoid all the junk associated with dairy. Anyone who gets a new blender ought to be able to make this for themselves. We got frozen bananas, frozen strawberries. We'll blend for 30 seconds, give each of them a courtesy mix, blend for another 30 seconds, and then we're done. It's so cool. I mean, the texture is like freaking ice cream. It's thick. This tastes like banana chunks, and this tastes like ice cream. And you can taste the insides of the strawberries. What do I say?
There's not much to say.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to add here. If you look close, you can see the consistency. This looks and feels like ice cream. This looks and feels like a mishmash of fruit that's frozen, kind of looks like salsa. This might taste okay, but I don't think this tastes like ice cream. This does. Unbelievable. If you look at the Ninja's FAQ, it clearly states that it cannot make hot soup. But since the Vitamix 5200 can, we're gonna give the Ninja a chance to keep up. And it's gonna give us an opportunity to see how it handles hard ingredients like carrots. All right, we're making tortilla soup. It's a classic Vitamix recipe. I'll throw in some carrots, some celery, some onion, aroma tomato, garlic in the husk for some extra fiber, and a bouillon cube. That's a vegan one. And that is the basis for any vegetable soup. But since we're making tortilla soup, I'm gonna add a taco seasoning that I got from a taco seasoning container. We'll add 3 cups of water. Since I love it full of veggies and I have a bunch laying around, I'm gonna throw in some cabbage slices, some red bell pepper, a little mushroom, yellow squash, and a little tiny bit of jalapeno. Next, we'll flip them on, start to emulsify the vegetables, and at the end, we'll add a little bit of texture. The Vitamix is gonna take cold water and vegetables and turn it into hot soup in 6 minutes. How? The blade runs at 37,000 RPM, so the friction heats it up. Okay, I'm gonna pop the lids on, put the Ninja on 3 speed, and put the Vitamix on variable speed 10, and let them roll for 6 minutes. Ready? How come this one won't go on? Letting them run. So can you see how this is kind of just going up and down like this? That's how it's designed. Can you see how everything is kind of coming from the outside and going in? Can you look in? Now you can really see the color difference between these two. One of the Ninja is dark and murky. The soup in the Vitamix is bright and rich. I mean, it's like a remarkable difference with the exact same ingredients. Now, with the Vitamix, you can actually feel that the soup is warm. But since the container is insulated, you're not gonna burn your skin. But if you open up the lid, we're gonna actually see the steam from the piping hot soup. We just stopped both after 6 minutes, and we're gonna get a reading of how warm each of them actually got. I have a kitchen thermometer that we're gonna put in here. Right now it says 71.2. That's the temperature in my kitchen. 76.4 is where it stopped, and if you wanna come take a gander. All right, so let's take the temperature of the soup in the Vitamix. It smells so good. Oh my God, steamy. It's 151 degrees and still rising. You can't take a bath in 151 degrees. Before we add the texture, let's see how each of these machines process the ingredients by putting them through a number 20 sieve. Now, at first, they looked about even, but after pouring the entire containers, the Ninja left about double the pulp that the Vitamix did. Since this doesn't even resemble soup, I'm not even gonna add the texture, but I will quickly show you how to do it in the Vitamix. We put everything back in so we can put on the finishing touches. I'm gonna add chicken for protein, corn and black olives for color, and some tortilla chips for crunch. Put it on low speed for about 5 seconds. That's it. Done. Hot soup made from scratch. And the Vitamix did all the work. The Ninja, not so much. So let's bring it all together. The Ninja Professional versus the Vitamix 5200. We talked about design, we looked at blend quality, and we explored versatility. So on one hand, the Ninja has a smaller footprint, a bigger container, and it can do most of the basic things nearly as well. So maybe that's why so many people have bought them. On the other hand, I get the sense that a lot of those buyers eventually feel like they made the wrong decision. Now, if you want me to tell you to go get a Vitamix, I'm not gonna do that either. I'll let my blog make that case for you. There, you'll find recipes, case studies, and exclusive discounts. Check it out. Type it into your browser, lifeisnoyoke.com. And remember, I'm proud of you. You're doing great. Keep up the good work. Life is no yoke. I'm out.
Is the Ninja better at that or the Vitamix?
The blade would be better with the sharpener. And it's top of my teeth.
Perfect.
Okay.
Do it once more just for shits and giggles.
No. If it's perfect, I'm not doing it again. Which one is the winner? Are you ready?
You keep adding words that are like superfluous words.
Okay, help me.
Okay.
Regarding Ninja blenders. Lucy! lifeisnoyoke.com before you make your pick.
That was good. A little less cheesy this time though.
You didn't stop this, did you?
No.
You said butt plug.
Take the lid off the temperature reader.
Oh, that's a lid? Well, it's not hot. It tastes good. This is how do you do it? Oh.